Hello there, student. So you must have definitely heard from your family or your friends that you look exactly like your father or exactly like your mother, or at least that you share some features with your father or some features with your mother. Have you ever wondered why that is? Hi, my name is Abhishek, and in this chapter, Heredity and Evolution, these are exactly the kind of questions that we'll be answering. So first what we'll do is, we'll have a look at the history of what do we know about genetics and how do we know about it. So we are going to go through different scientists who gave us different ideas about what DNA is, what is a gene, and how is it present inside the cell. So what exactly is this heredity? Let's understand that. So heredity is the transfer of biological characters. All our body has different features like the hair color, eye color, height of an individual. All these are called as biological characters, and these are transferred. Now from who to who? They are transferred from one person or one generation to another generation, right? With the help of something called as genes. So this forms the basis of our heredity. Now we know this mainly because of a very important scientist. His name was Gregor Johann Mendel. Right? He was a pioneering scientist, and because of him the field of genetics has started. So he's called as the father of genetics. So around the period of 1886, so very long back. So it took a long time for him to understand the conclusion of his research about heredity. We know, we have already studied in the 9th grade that he performed various experiments on pea plants, the garden pea plant, Pisum sativum. And with the help of the results that he found out, it took him a little time to come to conclusion about what these results actually mean. But he jump-started the research in the field of genetics. After him, in the year 1901, the scientist Hugo de Vries, he told us that the reason behind the sudden changes in our DNA, in our genes, were due to the mutational theory. There is something called as mutation that happens, which is none other than difference or change in the sequence of nucleotides that is present inside our DNA. So this is what we know because of Hugo de Vries. 1 year after that, in the year 1902, two scientists, Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri, what they were doing was they were carefully analyzing the cells of a grasshopper under a microscope. And when they were doing so, for the first time, they observed chromosomes. Now these are bundles of DNA. Right? When DNA bundles, condenses around itself, it forms chromosomes, and these were first time observed under the microscope by these two scientists. Right? Then after that, research started in this direction, okay, of finding the nature of genetic material, when it was proved that genes are carried via chromosomes. Once we have found out that chromosomes are present inside the nucleus, it was also found out that genes that Mendel was talking about were present on this chromosome. So all the scientists from all over the world sort of got into a race to find out what these genes are and how they control our biological characters. In the year 1944, three scientists, Oswald Avery, Macklin McCarthy and Colin McLeod, what they did was they did some research on different plant cells, animal cells, fungi cells, bacterial cell, all the cells that they could get their hands on. And they came to a very important conclusion. Except for viruses, okay, except for viruses, all living organisms have DNA as their genetic material, right? Because some viruses have DNA as well as RNA as their genetic material, and it's highly debatable whether viruses are even living or dead, right? So this is what these three scientists found out in the year 1944. Further, in the year 1961, the French geneticists Francis Jacob and Jacques Monod, what they found out or what they put forth was they proposed a model for a process of protein synthesis. Now this is transcription and translation that we are talking about. So these were the two scientists who first time put forth this idea, right? And they did so with the help of DNA in the bacterial cell. Right? Because bacteria are prokaryotes, it is easy to handle them inside the laboratory as compared to a eukaryotic cell. Research mainly is done on these prokaryotic cell. So this helped us to uncover the genetic code that is hidden within our DNA. Okay, and thereby the technique of recombinant DNA technology emerged. So the technique with the help of which we could modify DNA, take DNA from one organism and insert it inside the body of another organism started. right, which has vast scope in the field of genetic engineering. As I told you, the modifying of DNA, transfer of DNA from one organism to another, all this started because of the work of all these scientists. Now, what all can we do with the help of these techniques? So, the science of heredity is useful for diagnosis. There are a lot of diseases called as genetic diseases, diseases that people are born with, that we cannot do anything about. So, it can help us in the diagnosis of such diseases, not only diagnosis, treatment, and if possible also prevention of hereditary disorders, right. All this is possible only because we know information about genes and DNA nowadays. So, production of hybrid varieties of animals, nowadays we are able to produce animals, let's say cattle, that are able to give us more quantity of milk by eating less amount of food, so that the production of all our farmers, our people doing animal husbandry increases, their profit increases, right. So, production of hybrid variety of animals and plants for agriculture obviously, and in the industrial processes in which microbes are used. So, all these things are possible because of the information that all these scientists have given us. So, that is the basis of heredity.